Testing. Hello. All right. So today we're going to be going over a new type of item that I can hear myself. 1 second. That's not right. Okay. We're going to be going over a new type of item that I made with help from another developer in Eldritch Osiris Games, Spellbound Regalia. So I'm going to go ahead and read off what I already have here on the page. We'll go into the item itself last, as well as go into adding some of the other ones I've already made, just making them pretty here on the sheet, and maybe making some more. So I'm going to start with reading this. We have Spellbound Regalia. Spellbinders tend to eschew more martial pursuits in favor of their mystical training. However, along their path, they very often find means to imbue implements with special enchantments, made to channel their magical powers or by utilizing materials that do so naturally. Spellbound Regalia are choice items for spellcasters, weaving pathways of magic without the strain of many of their normal magics might have on them. Armaments with the Regalia trait may need to be charged to use some of their activations, which have the charge trait. And so we have two new traits here. We have the Regalia trait and the charge trait. Normally these things would probably be presented in alphabetical order, but I prefer information flow. So we're going to start with Regalia and go to charged, because that is the pertinent flow of information. So Regalia. Items with the Regalia trait function similarly to specific magic weapons with a few exceptions. Regalia can be etched with a weapon potency and striking runes, which affect their strike activations as though they were weapon attacks. A Regalia's strike activation can be used anytime you could strike normally, uses your spell attack modifier proficiency instead of a proficiency in a particular type of weapon, counts as both a strike and a spell attack when triggering reactions, and may have additional listed traits and effects in their entry. Unless otherwise stated, no attribute modifiers are added to damage from a Regalia's strike, though they still benefit from bonuses to damage that normally affect weapon attacks, such as weapon specialization. So, basically, these are weapons that run off your spellcasting modifier, instead of strength or dexterity. And a trade-off is that, you don't add strength if you happen to be a thief as well, you don't add dex. But there is design space in there to allow you to add something to it. But we will get into that more when we're talking about designing them. Charged actions and activities with the charge trait require the item, creature, hazard, or other source associated with them to be charged. Unless otherwise stated, charging such a source can be done as an action with the manipulate and concentrate traits. Though some abilities and activations may also charge the source. If an action or ability specifies that a charged source becomes discharged, its charge is depleted, and it must be charged again before activations and activities with the charged trait can be performed. So that's basically just saying, hey, this needs at least one action to set up before you can really use it. If there is an action that requires that. And in the Regalia, at least all the ones we have so far, all of their basic strikes have charged. So they do have to be charged up first, which means that there is a small action tax, but there are other things to them that they can do that discharge as well. This actually charged. Is it insight a trait? I forget. Nope. No, stop. There we go. So this one here is a very basic one that I made the other day. Introspectum. It's a level 1 item, which is going to be the minimum level currently for Regalia. I've been brainstorming maybe a ultra basic Regalia that's a 0 level, but that's sort of meddling in something that I need to investigate a little bit more. We have the magical and Regalia traits, 20 gold pieces, standard for a combat effective item of level 1. This one is held in one hand, but as you'll see, the usage can be very varied with these, and it has a light bulb. This small journal is embedded with a simple semi-precious stone. Its corner is capped in brass. Each introspectum is associated with a skill that can be used to recall knowledge, chosen when it is created. You can spend 1 minute perusing your introspectum to make a recall knowledge check with its associated skill, with a +1 item bonus. And that's just sort of a ribbon, a little thing it can do. It doesn't give a blanket check to recall knowledges. It doesn't let you have it all the time. You have to sit down, spend a minute, and then go, okay, I get +1 to figure this out. So it's not going to be anything you can do when time is pressing. We have our Activate Strike, which has the charged and ranged 10 increment, or range increment 10 feet traits. So it's a ranged attack. It flies out and bonks. Very simple. Damage, 1d4 bludgeoning. Nothing after that. But then we have a second activation, Pertinent Info, which is a free action. Requires you to be charged. And has a trigger if you successfully hit a creature with Introspectum. And the effect is the Introspectum's gemstone resonates with the creature and your mind. That's right. That's what I was thinking before. Mental. Until the end of your next turn, you gain a +1 item bonus to recall knowledge checks to identify the triggering creature. If you use the associated skill of the Introspectum, you also gain a +1 circumstance bonus to the check, and then it discharges. So you have to spend another action before you can use it for other things again. Excuse me. So basically meaning, this is a pretty simple item. You bonk creatures and you get to know a little bit more about them or it helps you to know a little bit more about them. Why put the mental trait on it? Like I just did. That's mostly because in the niche situation that mental effects might trigger something or might be disrupted, or you might be immune to them momentarily for some reason. it won't work. Those are really niche situations, but niche situations shouldn't be ignored, I guess, is a way of putting it. But we're gonna go ahead and start importing another one that I have. And we can talk a little bit about how their design can vary. While I'm doing that. So we're going to go with the bottomless bag of bombs. I have a couple others already created as well. So I'm just copy pasting here, and then we're going to be applying styles and such. Why isn't that working? Oh, duh, because I'm dumb and the thing that's already on it instead of the header. Believe me. Edit. Make that one that. There we go. There we go. That's not so bad now, is it? And just for speed, we're gonna place this one like that. Block, underline, normal. So we have a usage of, this one's level 3, has a price of 60, and a usage of worn. It's not held in your hand. And we get text block, no indent. Sorry, I recently changed my key layout, so I have to update some of my hotkeys. And basically, initially when I was thinking of these, they didn't necessarily have like a specific thing in mind. Like I was generally thinking of things like, you know, you see mages holding a book as they cast magic, or holding a rod or something like that. And I was thinking about that, but as I started to work on more and think about them more, I realized they can kind of cross over with all sorts of different types of items, and there's no reason they have to be held. So the usage is worn, but we address needing hands in it. So this sturdy leather bag bears scorch marks and strangely unfitting floral pattern. This is a reference. Charging the bag always requires a free hand, as doing so has you pull a small fuzzy ball from the bag, which is a bomb. Dropping or otherwise losing your grip on the bomb discharges the bag. So that part's very straightforward. It doesn't have a natural ancillary effect. This one is very much a weapon, with basically no extra abilities. And it's a reference to Klee from Genshin Impact, as Genshin Impact is sort of the thing that inspired the idea of these, because of catalysts from there, which is the mage weapons, and how the mage weapon characters in Genshin are all kind of different. Like, some of them seem very straightforward, like Lisa basically casts electric arc and constantly, but then like Klee throws bombs, and there's a guy that like punches things, and there's just all sorts of stuff. So it started getting my gears turning. So this one I actually arranged alphabetically. So our strike's in the middle, but we will start there in terms of looking at it. We have charged fire and a range increment of 20 feet. It's very similar to a bomb. Ranged, which should be capital, 1d8 fire damage, plus 1 fire splash damage to the target and adjacent creatures per weapon damage die. Discharge. So you get 1d8 plus 1 damage, or 1d8 plus 1 per weapon damage die. So when you're striking with this, it would be 2d8 plus 2. But it does discharge on a normal strike. So it's very action heavy. You'd have to recharge it. Though it does have a non-charged effect that always happens. We'll get to that shortly. But we have Boom Boom, which requires us to be charged and has the flourish trait because it's action efficiency. It says strike with the bag's bomb, then interact to draw another bomb, charging the bag, then strike with that bomb. So this is 3 actions for 2, basically. You already have to have a bomb out, and then it lets you draw another one and throw it. It's basically quick bomber, sort of. It's a sort of a quick bomber-esque thing going on here. But pretty straightforward. It lets you throw 2 bombs for the price of 2 actions instead of 3. And it just goes boom. And this is all off your spell attack roll, and you're probably thinking, well, why would I do that? Ignition is just going to be better at a certain point because it'll have more dice. And that's fair. These aren't meant to replace spells or cantrips. They're meant to sort of give you variety to choose from in terms of your actions. And sometimes what they do. Sort of more open benefit of this is, a reaction that is you take fire damage, and then the bag detonates, dealing 1 fire splash damage to you and all adjacent creatures per weapon damage die of the bottomless bag of bombs. If the bag was charged, double the splash damage and discharge the bag. So this is just, I took a little damage, but I'm going to punish anything that's around me. And this can trigger off of you throwing a bomb at something that's adjacent to you. You throw a bomb at something, and you take 1 or 2 or whatever splash damage, and then you just get to basically chain explode a little extra fire damage. You take fire damage, even if it is reduced to 0. Good note to have. because you might have a backfire mantle or something. And this is, I think this sort of cycle of like exploding yourself is kind of fun. Like I have Lee is my strongest character in Genshin Impact. And I'm always setting the ground on fire and taking damage. So I took that as a little bit of inspiration here. And the thing is, a lot of these, they're not going to come pre-charged, like at these lower levels, they're not going to come pre-charged with runes. Those are things that you'll add on later. Because they do have plenty packed into them already. Higher level ones will come with basic runes, so you don't have to piddlingly go like, okay, I need to add a striking rune to this. Or a +1 rune to this. And that is one thing that they will have over spells, is they get +1, +2, +3. So they are more accurate than your spells, but ultimately they're never going to deal as much damage as spells. They're not meant to. They're meant to be about action diversity. And having need effect and make your magic a little more magical without stressing out your spell slots. So let's bring in the next one, which was also partially inspired by Genshin Impact, because of the guy that punches things with his magic. I can't remember his name because I don't actually have him. I was just playing him as part of an event that lets you use characters you don't have. So this one's level 1, has a price of 20 gold pieces, and is worn gloves. And I think that's correct, because it's supposed to take up the same slot as hand wraps of mighty blows. Hand wraps of mighty blows. Which is worn gloves, yes. Yes, so I did that right. Oops. So these sea green leather wraps always seem a bit damp and smell like the ocean breeze. When charged, bands of clear water wrap around your hands, adding momentum to your attacks, but making it difficult to use and manipulate other items. You suffer a -2 circumstance penalty to any checks that require the use of held items or the fine motion of your hands while charged. If you cast a spell with the water trait, you can charge the Daedalus Fist as a reaction. So this part here, casting a spell to charge, is something that got brought up by, who was it? I worked on the concept of these in Eldritch Osiris Games with a colleague, and everybody has different usernames, and some have changed recently, so I often forget. Oh, I'm in the wrong thing. Derpity derp. Delioth. So, if you've seen the name Brayden on any Eldritch Osiris Games products, that's Delioth, and he's got quite an eye for design, and I very much like bouncing ideas off of him. He came up with the sort of core mechanics over here, for the most part, of Regalia and charge traits. Although they were baked in a different way, I changed them into traits. So this is my take on on his version. But there's a lot of freedom in being able to design for these. You can have spellcasting be more or less a part of it, as we've already seen. So these two don't have much to do with spellcasting in of themselves. They just use your magical energy to power them. Whereas this one, you can siphon off some of the magic that you cast to power them. You can also use the singular action to charge this one. But we'll get to one that doesn't let you do that too. As we are going to also say hello to my weird document of stuff. Maybe you see little sneak peeks of things I haven't released. We're going to add a page here. That is the left side. This is the right side page, so we add a left side page after it to flow into. This is the first one of these pages that's actually going to flow into another one. So we have our first activation here, which is see hands. You see these hands, you better catch them. And it has concentrate, manipulate, and water. You surround your arms and protect the flow of elemental water and charge the Daedalus Fist. Oops, I pressed the wrong button. While the fist remains charged, if you would take fire damage, you may spend a reaction to reduce any fire damage you would receive by your level, then discharge. Oh, we can fix that. We can eke out a little bit of space in here somewhere. There we go. Oh. I done did an oopsie. 1 second. Okay. I changed everything's spacing. There we go. All right. And then, so this basically is a special charge where there's an extra effect while it remains charged, allowing you to basically block fire damage at the cost of immediately discharging the Daedalus Fist. We have our strike here. To no great surprise, it has it's a melee attack. It does 1d6 bludgeoning damage. Has the water, free hand, and agile traits along with charged. You do have to be charged to use it. Pretty straightforward. It doesn't do anything too crazy. And as far as it goes, the damage is always going to be relatively low unless there's a discharge associated with the basic strike. This one's a little higher because it's melee. And remember, we do not add strength. So this deals a d6 of bludgeoning damage with no strength added. And it has the water trait. So under certain circumstances, it'll deal even more damage. Excuse me. So we have the Tsunami Strike as our final activation. As charge trait, so it has to be charged. You use all the power in the water in your surrounding fists. Strike with the Daedalus Fist. I should probably just make that a separate sentence. This attack gains the Forceful trait. On a success, the target must also succeed a Fortitude save against your spell DC or fall prone, regardless of the result of the attack. Discharge. So basically, this one is just you get a little more oomph with the damage. If it's a follow-up attack, I believe, if I'm remembering how forceful works. Off the top of my head, I made this like a month or two ago. Forceful, yeah, becomes more dangerous as you build momentum. So yeah, this one, it gets extra oomph if you've already hit with it or have already swung with it. But the main part is that you have to make a save or get knocked prone if you hit them. So there's sort of a lot of choice baked into this one. Is do you open with it, being more likely to hit, but dealing less damage, but more likely to proc knocking them over? Or do you go for more damage on the tail end, especially after you've got this, striking, greater striking? And that is it for the Deadless Fist. Now we're going to go into the longest one I've made so far, which is the one that I actually made first. It's a level 2 one. We have the Shining Dart. And this one was inspired by, the concept of Regalia in general was inspired by Genshin Impact. This specific item is inspired by the magic missile item from Terraria. Held in one hand, bulk 1. This rod of ash, capped with ornate silver embellishments, houses a pristinely clear quartz crystal at one end with a tiny mote of dim light within. When etched with potency runes, the Shining Dart strikes deal an additional amount of force damage equal to the item bonus 2 attack rolls granted by the rune. Additionally, any effect that would stop or reduce damage from Force Barrage affects a strike and homing dart activations. Shining Dart can only be charged via Let There Be Light. So this is a restriction saying that you can't use the standard 1 action charge with this. So Let There Be Light is further down near the bottom, and we'll get to it here in a second. Do some cleanup here right quick just to save some space. And here's Let There Be Light. It's 1 action, so it's not like it's a 2 action tax. It is still 1 action. Has the Concentrate, Light, and Magical traits, so it doesn't have Manipulate. Unlike the standard, anybody can charge this thing. You charge the rod and produce a tiny mote of light from the crystal that sheds bright light in a 10-foot emanation, and dim light a further 10 feet. This mote moves with you until it is directed by another creature, or directed with another activation, sorry. You may have only 1 mote in existence at a time, and the mote ceases existing if the Shining Dart becomes discharged. And the reason Let There Be Light is required to charge this is because the entire shtick of Let There Be Light revolves around that mote, basically. The mote is the attack. The mote is everything that goes on with it, basically. Which is one of the reasons why you might restrict what is used to charge your Regalia. So, with that said, we can go into the other activations. We've got Brighter, which has a requirement, which is your moat is within 30 feet. Effect, your moat surges with light for 1 minute, shitting light as a torch and increasing its counteract rank to half your level, rounded up, and using your spell DC as the counteract DC. At the end of this minute, Shining Dart becomes discharged unless it is already discharged another way. So, this has to do almost exclusively with the darkness spell. Otherwise, it's just, it doubles its light radius, basically. So it gets brighter, which is the most seeable effect, but it also, instead of always being counteract rank 1, because it's a second level item, this makes it the counteract rank of your magic, and with the same DC. So if somebody casts darkness and it's just like, oh, your mode of light is suppressed, you can go brighter, and if you're a high enough level, it shines on through. So Homing Dart is a 2-action activation. We'll come back to this after the strike. So strike is charged, concentrate, force, light, manipulate, and a range of 30 feet. I don't think I actually need to have manipulate in here, because it's a ranged attack. That was probably in me being over precautious with my traits. But because you do need to mentally direct it, it does have concentrate. It's ranged, 1d4 force damage, no bonus, but as we saw up here, if you put +1 on it, it gets +1 damage. The moat flies to your target, illuminating the area around them briefly. You may target a creature your moat is attached to. We'll get to that as well. Even if they are further than 30 feet and you do not have line of effect to you. Though you still suffer any effects or penalties of being unable to see them as normal, such as the hidden condition, 50% chance of missing, basically. And you critically fail. If you critically fail the hit, you discharge. So this one's got a hard range of 30 feet outside of the particular circumstance that your moat is attached to a creature. So we have Yonder Glow, which is your moat is within 30 feet as a requirement. The effect is you direct the moat into another space within 30 feet. If there's a creature you can see within the space, you may attempt a spell attack roll against their AC. Succeeding attaches the moat to the creature, causing it to follow them anywhere they go until they escape against your spell DC, or the moat ceases to exist. If a creature successfully escapes the moat, Shining Dart becomes discharged. You automatically succeed the spell attack roll against willing creatures, so this lets you attach your light to somebody. And for creatures that are potentially your enemies, perhaps, it's kind of inefficient to go, oh, I can see an enemy there, I'm going to attach the light to them and then beat them with it later instead of just shooting them with it immediately. This might be able to act as something where you're like, I'm going to attach this to you, and if you do anything, I'm going to hit you with it. But then we come back to Homing Dart. So requirements, your moat is within 30 feet or attached to a creature. The effect is you send your moat hurtling at a creature within 30 feet or at a creature to which the moat is attached. They take force damage equal to that dealt by Shining Dart's strike activation. Shining Dart is then discharged by a successful Shining Dart. No, yeah, that's where successful should go. Built by a successful strike activation. We can leave the item name out of there, I think. So basically, this is magic missile, but 1 for 2 actions. It's a guaranteed hit. It is the most action heavy. It requires 3 actions for like a single dart. Ultimately. And automatically discharges it. So this is probably the most experimental one. And it's not doing a lot of damage, like 1d4 force. At most, later, you'll be dealing, I think 4d4 plus 3 force damage for 3 actions, which is not incredible. But it is still a nice little thing to have. Let's see. And now we're gonna go about making a new one. So, since this is pretty close to the bottom anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and just break over to the next column. And we will start there. So we'll Regalia, item X. And I had an idea for one a couple days ago that's actually attached to other items. So I need to look up how attached works. An attached weapon. Or is it modification? Nope. All right. I need to find the all equipment page. Adjustments. Yes, adjustments. Okay. So this also has the adjustment traits. So we're going to call it thanks Cabacon. I don't actually remember how to say this, but I do know an item that has the right words on it. Okay, so there's no CH. It's the CH is over here. Cabacon, Saints Cabacon. We're going to call it a level 2 item for now. A price of 35 gold. Usage. Applied to a magical staff, wand, or a holy symbol. Bulk is like nothing. Just say staff, wand, or holy symbol. I don't guess that it has to be magical. Like What are you gonna get out of it if it's not much? So this Avacon comes in several varieties. Topaz, onyx, and amethyst. Each version. Sub-varieties. Goes in when it is crafted. Or amethyst. Topaz, Avacons have the topaz and onyx Avacons affect the spirit damage they deal. No. Wording is a pain sometimes. Okay. Topaz, Avacons. I keep spelling it wrong. Avacons. Add the holy traits to their strike. And onyx adds unholy. That's unholy. Both topaz, topaz and onyx saints. Avacons are uncommon unless you are part of a faith that allows for holy or unholy sanctification, respectively. Activate. Strike. Spirit. Charged. Lance. Radiant Lance. Air Lance, Blast. Oh, what's it called? Divine Lance. Okay, Spirit trait is involved. Spirit. Range 30 feet. So this is another one where we're not granting it an increment, it's just a flat range. We could give it range increment of 10 feet. I'll think about it. Go back and forth on it a little bit. It is ranged and deals 1d4 spirit damage. It could potentially be 1d6. Spirit's not. Yeah, I think we can do 1d6 because Divine Lance is a spell, as a cantrip. And it deals 2d4, which is averaged at 5, and this will average at 3.5. So yeah. And this also requires runes to deal more damage, whereas Divine Lance will outclass it pretty quickly. So obviously, you have to be wielding the thing. I will specify that just so it's clear. You must be holding the item the Tabacon is applied to in order to activate. And I leave the hands vague because you need at least one. You might be using 2 for a staff. But those are what it's required for. And so then we have activate. We'll do, this is going to end up going above it, but we'll do Saint. Empowerment. This has the charged. Oh, you know what I didn't do? I didn't do my little 1 actions here. Charged. Right. So spell shape. If your next action is to cast a spell that stores hit points to a creature, the first time that creature regains hit point, first time a creature regains hit points from that spell, they gain an additional number of additional hit points equal to the spell's rank plus the number of weapon damage dice of the Saint's Cavacon. The first time, no. Your next restores hit points to a creature the first time. Creature. Select one affected creature. It's like per weapon damage die of the Saint's Cavacon. First time selected creature regains hit points from that spell. They gain an additional equal to the spell's rank. So at first, this is 1. As you make it striking, you can select up to 2 creatures to be done, and like by the end of the game, you'll be able to heal, 9 or 10 extra to up to 4 creatures. And like I said before, this one has to move. And we're gonna put another. We're gonna put another activate up here. I'm gonna do. Let's see. Bait. Guarding. Presentation. And do 2 actions here. Do a special charger, basically. And we'll do concentrate and manipulate. Basically, you present your a Cavacon before strongly. Cavacon before you strongly. Blading you to those who would cause you harm. You charge the thanks Cavacon. Cavacon. And gain a +1 circumstance bonus to saves and AC against spirits and undead until the beginning of your next turn. If you have a topaz Cavacon, topaz or onyx Cavacon, this bonus applies to fiends. This bonus also applies to fiends and celestials respectively. Actually, to unholy and holy creatures, respectively. So, this is a 2-action shield raise sort of situation, where it also charges the Cavacon. But, you get to, help defend yourself a bit. And yeah, that makes the Topaz and Onyx versions just better. Spirits and undead. Cavacon. I don't know. I don't like, I thought this was a good idea. I don't know if I like this, actually. Let's just make it to AC. That makes me feel better about it. A shield is better. I mean, a buckler's not, but a shield is better. This bonus. Let's do it this way. Increases to +2. If the... No. Bonus. undead applies to unholy and holy creatures respectively. Which technically gives the amethyst one a slightly it gives it its niche because it'll apply to spirits that are not unholy or holy, because there's very few undead that doesn't apply to. I think revenants and hungry ghosts are the only ones I can think of off the top of my head that are not unholy. But this way, they each have their niche. The topaz one works against unholy creatures. The onyx one works against holy creatures. And then the topaz one just works against all spirits and undead. And I think I can add back in the saves now. Saving Rose and an AC against spirits and undead until the beginning of your next turn. If you have the topaz or onyx cabicon, the bonus instead applies to unholy and holy creatures respectively. If the cabicon is charged, guarding presentation only costs 1 action. And that's our other benefit of charging this way. So if we're already charged, we basically get to maintain our shield for an action. No, this doesn't make, because then it's basically just 1 action anyway, because we're doing 1 action to activate and 1 action to block. So this one being 2 actions doesn't make sense. There needs to be some other reason to have this one fit. For 1 minute or until the cabicon is discharged. Guarding presentation only costs whichever comes first. Guarding presentation only costs 1 action. So, okay, so this requires you to open it this way, which could be something you don't want to do because you might need to just activate it quicker to do something else. Makes it a little bit more variable. Okay, I like that better. What about the strike? Let's take a look at Divine Lance again, right quick. Let's see, it's got a range of 60 feet. It's also 2 actions to hit. Alright, so what we'll do is we'll give it a range increment of 10 feet. Okay. So there's a new one. There's the Saint's Cavicon, which can be applied to staves, wands, or holy symbols. Make another one. I'm gonna go ahead and fill out this page. Let's do a higher level one. See what an example of a higher level one might look like. Let's do this. Blood Thief. Aetham. I think that's how it's spelled. This is another one I've had kind of half knocking around in my head. Okay. And this one is meant to cross over with actual weapons. Item. Let's see, what level is wounding? We want it to be a few levels above that. Level 7. So let's do item. Let's just make it a nice even 10. Oh, no, not that one. All right, so price. I need to go look at my tables because I'm not in the same range anymore. Building items. PF2e. If I can type. All right, let's look at level 10. We're looking at 1,000 gold. 1,000 GP. Usage held in one hand. Bleh. Bulk. Light. Okay. Sorry, I had to sneeze. All right. So this ornate +1 striking wounding dagger does function normally as a weapon when not charged. However, when charged, it takes on a hunger that only magic and guide drawing Atham. Discharges. Drawing the blood from a blood thief Atham discharges it. Usually an interact action. Alright, so let's do the base activation. Activate. Strike. Agile. Charged. Agile charged. It does have to be used in melee for its charged ability, for its charged attack. Melee 1d4. Slashing. We can do versatile. 1d4 slashing plus 1d6 persistent bleed, but that's just dagger with wounding already. Well, we will get to that. Or actually, yeah, let's amp that up. It changes it to a D8. D8 of persistent bleed damage. Which just overrides the 1d6 from wounding. There's no need to specify that it's separate, just because it'll just override it. 6 persistent bleed damage. And this is 1 action. So let's do ABCD. So have a reaction. Style. Trigger. The blood thief. FM deals bleed damage to a creature deals damage to a creature susceptible to bleed damage. Effect. Charge. D Chief Atham. So this one's got an effect to charge it, or an ability to charge itself as a reaction. Stuffing Blade. Or actually, $1d8 persistent bleed damage as the base damage. So it no longer deals physical damage when active. It only deals persistent bleed damage. So Supping Blade, and then so that's Supping Blade, and this is Supping Siphon. Bloodteeth Atham deals damage to a creature suffering persistent bleed damage. Effects. The creature immediately suffers the persistent bleed damage and attempts a recovery check. Discharge. And attempts a attempts a check for applying any additional persistent or suffers persistent bleed damage. Discharge. And bleed damage without a recovery check, and then discharge. So this is a one that encourages you to diversify your targets. Don't just focus down one creature. But this one is to help you focus on a singular creature just a little bit. They activate. Striking Rune. This is just for clarity because things can be weird. Or actually, no. Yeah, it should just affect this, right? I'm gonna go double check some things. Let's see. What is the Striking Rune's wording? Striking. Increase the weapon damage dice it deals from to 2 instead of 1. All right. So have additional listed traits and effects in their entry unless otherwise stated. So by default, this is going basically from 2d4 plus strength, or if you're a thief, dex, plus 1d6 bleed to just 2d8 bleed. So there's technically a drop, like a significant drop in damage. But you're landing persistent damage that gets weapon spec to it. Persistent bleed damage. This damage is cumulative with the damage from the wounding rune. So, let's see. So you go from potentially being able to do, say, on a really good turn, 6d4 plus 1d6 damage to 2d8 plus 1d6 damage with a single instance of rocking it earlier. So 2d, so potentially 4d8. That might be a little high. Let's see. Any dice? Come here, any dice. My friend, you helped me with averages and odds. Any dice. All right, so we're going from, say, 2d4 plus 1d6, or, hold on, 6d4 plus 1d6 to potentially a maximum of 4d8 plus 2d6. At the cost of a reaction on top of that. Oh, this needs to be charged. Right. Charged. Average. Yeah, the average is higher. So we do not. Let's just take that off, calculate. All right, so we do not accumulate. So, Blood Thief Athem only deals persistent bleed damage. With its blade becoming a liquid razor of blood that draws on more. Let's see. comes to an activation. This one's just going to be reaction heavy, I think. I think that's its cycle, probably. No. Let's do 2 actions. 2 actions. Conventional. Examination. What is charged? Let's make an unbold. Make a strike with the blood beef. Instead of its normal damage. It deals. Resistant piercing damage as the blood of the blade crystallizes and spreads throughout the targets. Discharge. Unexpected crystallization. Crystallizes and spreads through the target's body. Discharge. So there's a level 10 one. Let's look at when's appropriate to give greater striking, actually. Because generally we want you to have to, you'll probably want, a rune to be purchased to enhance the weapon. Wounding is not loading. Okay. Fundamental weapon runes. I'm pretty sure level 10 is like an armor rune. I don't remember striking. Greater striking is 12th level. So yeah, that'll come later. Okay, so I think that's gonna be all for this for now. I'm gonna go ahead and set things up to make a video for YouTube. So I'm going to do that by, see, this is page 15. We're gonna export ourselves a little PDF. Let's cancel that for now and delete that. Why can I see the grid? What did I do to make myself see the grid? There we go. Ignore and continue. Okay. So PDF. $14, $15. Export. So this one is going to be Regalia 1. All right. Save this doc. Go ahead and close it. So it stops sucking up so much power. Not responding. In the meantime, we're gonna open up this PDF and get ourselves set up. And I'm gonna go and get a drink, because I am thirsty. Something is breaking. Why? Why you break? My stream is messing up. My computer is messing up. So that's not a good sign. It would be nice if I could bring up the thing that could close programs without it disappearing behind everything else. Affinity, come here. It's time for you to die, because whatever you're doing while you're trying to close is messing everything up. Close, Affinity. I've done it the hard way. Be gone. End task. What the hell? Okay. Be right back. Now I'm going to go get a drink. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and transition. Why isn't VOD working? Oh, VOD crash. Okay. I will be a glad boy if my other computer can ever get fixed. This one just does not seem to be able to keep up. I don't want to send a report to Microsoft. I just want to close the program, please. Okay. Let's actually, for the moment, go ahead and crop this one. Okay. There we go. And I don't need the blur bar currently. All right. So now it is Vidya time. So you need my computer. No, I'm fine. Thank you though, Tracy. I would have to set up all of my stream stuff on your computer and all of my software and everything to improve performance, which has been the issue. So let us, I'm going to not be looking at chat. I'm going to be looking at this here. So all right. Hello, or bleh, bleh, bleh. Right. Hello. Today we're taking a look at a new type of item that I've designed called Spellbound Regalia. I had help from Delioth, or Braden, as you may recognize from Eldritch Osiris games, in the design of the systems for Regalia, which we will get into shortly. But let's go ahead and start reading what they're about, and I'll talk about what we've got here to show off, as well as a few different design points and ideas, and how I think these can be really cool in a lot of different ways. Spellbound Regalia is what they're officially called, and they're basically mage weapons. Spellbinders tend to eschew more martial pursuits in favor of their mystical training. However, along their path, they very often find means to imbue implements with special enhancements made to channel their magical powers, or by utilizing materials that do so naturally. Spellbound Regalia are choice items for spellcasters, weaving pathways of magic without the strain many of their normal magics might have on them. armaments with the Regalia trait may need to be charged to use some of their activations, which have the charge trait. And with that, we get into our two new traits here, which are Regalia and Charged. Regalia. Items with the Regalia trait function similarly to specific magic weapons with a few exceptions. Regalia can be etched with weapon potency and striking runes, which affect their strike activations as though they were weapon attacks. A Regalia strike activation can be used any time you could strike normally. Uses your spell attack modifier proficiency instead of proficiency in a particular type of weapon. Counts as both a strike and a spell attack when triggering reactions, and may have additional listed traits and effects in their entry. Unless otherwise stated, no attribute modifiers are added to damage from a Regalia's strikes, though they still benefit from bonuses to damage that normally affect weapon attacks, such as weapon specialization. Charged. Actions and activities with the charge trait require the item, creature, hazard, or other source associated with them to be charged. Unless otherwise stated, charging such a source can be done as an action with the manipulate trait, or with the manipulate and concentrate traits. Though some abilities and activations may also charge the source, if an action or ability specifies that a charge source becomes discharged, its charge is depleted and must be charged again before actions and activities with the charge trait can be performed. So, all in all, basically, these are mage weapons. They aren't very effective in the hands of marshals unless those marshals are also masters. And like a fighter is never going to be good at us with a Regalia as they will with a weapon. Unless that Regalia also happens to be a weapon. But generally, when a Regalia is charged, it does not function normally as a weapon. So we've got a few to look at today. Little sneak peek, there's some down here too. But we will start with the introspectum. And yes, I know they're not in a very good order. But we will begin with introspectum. Oh, I forgot how I zoomed that on the screen. Whoops. So the introspectum is a small journal embedded with a simple semi-precious stone. The corners of the book are capped in brass, and each one is associated with skill that can be used to recall knowledge, chosen when it's created, such as arcana, crafting, society, etc. You can spend 1 minute perusing your introspectum to make a recall knowledge check with its associated skill with a +1 item bonus. Its strike activation is pretty simple. It deals 1d4 bludgeoning and has a range increment of 10 feet. It does have the charge trait, as all of them will, for its standard strike, which requires you to have spent an action ahead of time to have this trade-off. But that's not the only thing that you get to use it for when it's charged. Instance here, its second activation, Pertinent Info, is a free action with the charged and mental traits. Trigger, you successfully hit a creature with your introspectum. Effect, the introspectum's gemstone resonates with the creature and your mind. Until the end of your next turn, you gain a +1 item bonus to recall knowledge checks to identify the triggering creature. If you use the associated skill of the introspectum, you also gain a +1 circumstance bonus to the check, and you discharge. So, as you hit something, and then you discharge your book, and it gives you a benefit to figuring out what you're dealing with. Maybe figure out some of its weaknesses or something like that. And it's just a very simple one. And most of these are low level because they have some good abilities that scale over time or don't necessarily need scaling. Because you'll find that if there is something that uses a DC, it uses your spellcasting DC most generally. Although there are exceptions. So our second one is the Bottomless Bag of Bombs. It's a 3rd level item and costs 60 gold pieces. It's worn instead of held, like the introspectum was, but does specify that you need a free hand to charge it. So this sturdy leather satchel bears scorch marks and a strangely unfitting floral pattern. Charging the bag always requires a free hand, as doing so has you pull a small fuzzy ball from the bag, which is a bomb. Dropping or otherwise losing your grip on the bomb discharges the bag. And skipping Boom Boom for right now, we have our strike activation, which has a range increment of 20 feet. The charged and fire traits is ranged, has 1d8 fire damage plus 1 fire splash damage to the target and adjacent creatures per weapon damage die. And the basic strike here discharges the entirety of the Regalia. It's ranged, relatively high damage, and has splash. So those are all things that run into it being discharged. Plus it's thematic. You pull a bomb out, you throw it, you don't still have the bomb in your hand. Boom Boom is some action efficiency. It requires it to already be charged, so you have a bomb in your hand already. You strike with the bag's bomb, then interact to draw another bomb, charging the bag, then strike with the bomb, which discharges the bag. So it lets you sort of fire a little faster, if you will. And then you have the Uh-Oh activation, which is always available while you're wearing the bombless bag of bombs. Trigger is you take fire damage even if it's reduced to 0, and the effect is the bag detonates, dealing 1 fire splash damage to you and all adjacent creatures per weapon damage die of the bottomless bag of bombs. If the bag was charged, double the splash damage and discharge the bag. So you can choose, instead of throwing a bomb, you can just detonate the bomb in your hand if you would take some fire damage. Next, we have the Daedalus Fist, which is split between the 2 pages. It's 20 gold, and its usage is worn gloves, very much like Hand Wraps of Mighty Blows. These sea green leather wraps always seem a bit damp and smell like the ocean breeze. When charged, bands of clear water wrap around your hands, adding momentum to your attacks, but making it difficult to use and manipulate other items. You suffer a -2 circumstance penalty to any checks that require the use of held items or the fine motion of your hands while charged. If you cast a spell with the water trait, you can charge the Daedalus Fist as a reaction. This is another potential facet of these designs, is where they synergize with your spellcasting, and you can activate them, or you can charge them as a tail end of casting a spell. And so we have our first activation here, Sea Hands, which is concentrate, manipulate, and water. So this does not require it to be charged. In fact, it is a way to charge the Daedalus Fist. You surround your arms in a protective flow of elemental water and charge the Daedalus Fist. While the fist remains charged, if you would take fire damage, you may spend a reaction to reduce any fire damage you would take by your level, and then you discharge it. So it basically gives you a special shield against fire damage specifically, a single instance of fire resistance. And then we get to its strike, which is agile, charged, freehand, and water. It's a melee strike and deals 1d6 bludgeoning damage. Pretty simple, basically similar to a Monk's Fist, except you're not adding strength, but you do get to use your spellcaster mod to hit. And you can still hold things, you can still, and it does have the water trait, which in some niche situations is going to deal some extra damage. And then you have the Tsunami Strike, which is a single action and requires it to be charged. And you use all the power in the water surrounding your fists, strike with the Daedalus Fist. This attack gains the Forceful trait, which means if it's a follow-up attack, not just your first attack, you get a little extra damage. And on a success, the target must also succeed a Fortitude save against your spell DC or fall prone, regardless of the result of the attack, discharge. So even if you miss, you discharge. And you'll see a couple of variations on this. This one is regardless of if you miss, you discharge. And you'll see in Shining Dart, which is the next one, that we have a discharge on critical misses. So let's move on to Shining Dart. It's the second level item. It's 35 gold pieces, and it's held in one hand. With a bulk of 1, it's a little beefy. So this rod of ash, capped with ornate silver embellishments, houses a pristinely clear crystal quartz crystal at one end with a tiny mote of dim light within. When etched with potency runes, the Shining Dart strike deal an additional amount of force damage equal to the item bonus to attack rolls granted by the rune. Additionally, any effect that would stop or reduce damage from Force Barrage affects the strike and Homing Dart activations. Shining Dart can only be charged via Let There Be Light, so you can't use your basic Concentrate, Manipulate activity or action to charge Shining Dart. It can only be charged specifically by Let There Be Light, and there is a reason for that, which we'll get into shortly. But basically, its attacks are treated as bolts from Force Barrage for effects that would defend against them, such as Shield, or there's the brooch item that absorbs magic missiles. So that is something to take note of. So since it's important, let's start with Let There Be Light. It's one action: Concentrate, Light, and Magical. I probably didn't need to add Magical. This was the first one I made. I was a little zealous with the traits. So you charge the rod and produce a tiny mote of light from the crystal that sheds bright light in a 10-foot emanation and dim light a further 10 feet. This is physically tiny, which matters for it, one, being an emanation, and for when you move it later. This mote moves with you until it is directed with another activation. You may only have one mote in existence at a time, and the mote ceases existing if the Shining Dart becomes discharged. So, basically, you've got this little light that follows you around. It's kind of like casting the light spell. But with this activation down here, Yonder Glow, you can redirect it. You can make it move around, and even attach to creatures. So, let's go ahead and sort of make our way up from the bottom here. So we have Yonder Glow, which is one action, requires us to be charged, and has the Concentrate trait. The requirements are your mote is within 30 feet, and you direct the mote to another space within 30 feet. If there's a creature you can see within the space, you may attempt a spell attack roll against their AC. Succeeding attaches the mote to the creature, causing it to follow them anywhere they go until they escape against your spell DC, or the mote ceases to exist. If the creature successfully escapes the mote, Shining Dart becomes discharged. You automatically succeed the spell attack roll against willing creatures. So you can attach it to your buddy, no problems. An enemy creature, they could dodge out of the way and not stick. We've got our Strike, which is charged, Concentrate, Force, and Light, Manipulate, and has a range of 30 feet. The reason for these is you are mentally commanding it, Concentrate. You are sort of pointing the rod to direct it, which is Manipulate. It, of course, needs to be charged. It is a light effect. It deals force damage, so force, and it has a total range of 30 feet. This one is not one that has increments. It deals 1d4 force damage. Now, if you have +1 on it, it also deals an additional force damage. Excuse me. It also deals an additional force damage. The mote flies up to your target, illuminating the area around them briefly, and you may target a creature that your mote is attached to instead of its normal range. And even if you do not have line of effect or sight to them, you still suffer any effects or penalties of being unable to see them as normal, such as a mischance for them being hidden. And on a critical failure, you discharge. So if you hit or you miss, it's fine, the mote sticks around, but if you critically miss, the mote explodes. Shatters apart. We've already gone over Let There Be Light. So let's look at Homing Dart, which is 2 actions: Charged, Concentrate, Force, Light, and Manipulate. And the requirements are your mote is within 30 feet or is attached to a creature. Effect: you send your mote hurtling at a creature within 30 feet or at a creature to which the mote is attached. They take force damage equal to that dealt by a successful strike activation. Shining Dart is then discharged. This is basically like a action-heavy version of a single magic missile or force barrage dart. But you can do it all day. So it's not very powerful in terms of action economy, but it's still good because it's a guaranteed hit. It's not going to crit. It's never going to crit doing this, but it's decent. It's chip damage. If you are especially just kind of screwed over by the current situation, if you can't hit a thing, this is very useful. And then we have the brighter activation, which is one action, charged and light. The requirements: your moat is within 30 feet. And the effect is your moat surges with light for 1 minute, shedding light as a torch and increasing its counteract rank to half your level, rounded up. And using your spell DC as the counteract DC. This is basically changing this into a light cantrip. And at the end of this minute, Shining Dart becomes discharged unless it is already discharged another way. So basically, you can discharge it via homing dart or critically missing, or after 1 minute, it will discharge on its own. So a lot of that's to try and keep it from just completely overlapping with the light spell at earlier levels. But this is sort of this is inspired by the magic missile item from Terraria. The bottomless bag of bombs is inspired by the character Klee from Genshin Impact. The Daedalus Fist is also partially inspired by Genshin Impact and Avatar. But these were all ones that I had already made previous to making this video. But the same day that this video is made, I wrote the Saints Cabicon and the Blood Thief Atham. So let's take a look at them. The Saints Cabicon is an adjustment. So you might not remember or know what adjustments are. They are items that are basically attached to other items. And so they are built into either staves, wands, or holy symbols. They have a price of 35 gold pieces that modify that staff, wand, or holy symbol. This Cabicon comes in several varieties, chosen when it is crafted: topaz, onyx, or amethyst. Topaz Cabicons add the holy trait to their strike, and onyx adds unholy. Both topaz and onyx Saints Cabicons are uncommon unless you are part of a faith that allows for holy or unholy sanctification, respectively. You must be holding the item the Cabicon is applied to in order to activate it. And this one, I'm thinking, might not need the adjustment trait because I think adjustments are actually done at crafting, and I wanted this to be attachable. So it might have been better to have it just be usage attached to a staff wand or affixed to a staff wand or holy symbol. But I'll look into that more later. So basically, this Cabicon gives you 3 activations. You've got your strike, your guarding presentation, and Saint's empowerment. So guarding presentation is a 2-action, concentrate and manipulate. You present the Cabicon before you strongly, ablating you to those who would cause you harm. You charge the Saint's Cabicon and gain a +1 circumstance bonus to saves. Oh, it's supposed to say saves and AC, but there's some redundancy here. Saves, saving throws, and AC against spirits and undead until the beginning of your next turn. If you have a topaz or onyx Cabicon, the bonus instead applies to unholy and holy creatures, respectively. For 1 minute or until the Cabicon is discharged, whichever comes first, guarding presentation only costs 1 action. So this is a special charging, and it gives you a time period in which you can continually defend yourself a little bit against certain types of enemies. The amethyst version is across the board spirits and undead, regardless of their sanctification. whereas the topaz and onyx variations are mostly focused on holy and unholy, but don't care whether it's undead or spirits or fiends or just people, so that it could work against a champion, for example. You have Saint's Empowerment, which is charged and spell shape. If your next action is to cast a spell that restores hit points to a creature, select one affected creature per weapon damage die of the Saint's Cabochon. The first time the selected creature regains hit points from that spell, they gain additional hit points equal to the spell's rank. Just a little bit of extra healing for you. And it does apply to undead. So if you've got an onyx on there, if you got a staff of necromancy and you're trying to heal an undead with harm or something, go right ahead. You can do it. Its strike activation is pretty simple. It's charged, spirit, and has a range increment of 10 feet, and just does 1d6 spirit damage. Of course, the topaz version is holy, and the onyx version is unholy. So it does those in the appropriate damage types and triggering weaknesses and such. And then we have the Blood Thief Atham, our first high level one. And so it's magical regalia, it's 1,000 gold, and it is held in one hand. This one is also just a normal weapon. It's a +1 striking wounding dagger. And it does function normally as a weapon when not charged. However, when charged, it takes on a hunger that only magic can guide, with its blade becoming a liquid razor of blood that draws on even more. Drawing the blood from a Blood Thief Atham discharges it, usually in interact action. You have your strike activation, which is agile, charged, and versatile P. It does not let you throw it while it's charged. I mean, you can throw it, but it's improvised at that point. And you're just gonna bonk somebody on the head. But its main damage is persistent bleed damage. So this is gonna be overriding the wounding rune because it's just higher damage. Instead of 1d6, you'll be doing base 2d8. I know it says 1d8, but that's how weapons are formatted. We have striking, so this becomes 2d8 persistent bleed damage. Potentially plus, your weapon specialization, so there's a little extra on there as well. But remember, you don't get strength, you don't get dex, you don't get anything else to damage here from your attributes. You're not getting your intelligence as a wizard or your charisma as a sorcerer. We've got 2 reactions and a 2-action activation. So we have the Supping Blade, which does not require it to be charged. And that's because it is a charging ability. Trigger is the Blood Thief Atham deals damage to a creature susceptible to bleed damage. And the effect is charge the Blood Thief Atham. And then you have Supping Siphon, which is a reaction, requires it to be charged, and you deal damage to a creature suffering persistent bleed damage. The effect is the creature immediately suffers the persistent bleed damage without a recovery check and then discharges. So this is, you've already got it active, you hit them, they're bleeding already, and you just suck blood out of them immediately into the Atham, sating it momentarily. And then you have Unexpected Crystallization, a 2-action. You make a strike with the Blood Thief Atham. Instead of its normal damage, it deals persistent piercing damage as the blood of the blade crystallizes and spreads through the target's body, which then discharges, and you have just your normal knife again. That's all I've got for you today. Let me know if you like the idea of Spellbound Regalia, if you've got anything that this has inspired you to make, and check out my links down below. I have a bunch of free stuff on my Patreon. Nothing's behind a paywall. I really appreciate anybody coming and following. I appreciate any likes, comments, subscribes, all that stuff. You can also check me out on Twitch. I stream 5 days a week, most weeks. And I go over stuff like this, and I body double, just other projects I'm working on. So let me know what you think, and I'll see you later. Peace.